No, I'm not disagreeing. We're just trying to talk through the logistics of it. I just don't know. I don't know if I agree. I guess I don't know if I agree about how useful it would be. Yes.
We've really made some progress here.
Hello, and welcome to Way Too Broad, a show and tell program for really, really ridiculously excited grown-ups. I'm Hannah, and these are my co-hosts, Erin and Ben. Hi, Erin.
What's up? Not to be nitpicky, but Ben, you said we gotta do jazz hands, and then you proceeded to do spirit fingers. So,
I switched at the end because I forgot.
Yeah, so, not to be nitpicky there. Hello.
Oh, wait, are jazz hands like this?
Yeah, these are jazz hands, and these are spirit fingers.
What's it called when you do both?
Spirit jazz fingers.
It's so elegant how you just say all the words.
You just do in an order. You sandwich them together.
It's been too long since I've seen that movie. That's such a good... Is it, though? This is the new situation.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know. Bring it on. Bring it on. Hello, Hannah. Who's that man sitting next to you?
So we also have a special guest this week. He's been on before. He's a friend of the pod, longtime friend of mine.
good pal, a good pal of Hannah's.
Great pal of mine and a producer of the show. Ian, my husband, is here.
Palsband.
My palsband is here.
Hello, welcome Ian.
Welcome
Hannah's great pal.
Ian.
Yeah. Ian's going to be doing a guest obsession, so he's going to just also be our guest for the whole show. Mm. So feel free to speak up whenever you want to, or not.
I might.
Be our guest.
Yeah. The great... I don't know if this is a 30, being in your 30s thing, or if this is a 2020 thing, but I feel like the greatest journey I've been on this year in terms of entertainment is just learning how many of the movies and shows I used to love are bad, actually. For whatever reason, whether it's the writing, whether it's the quality, whether it's really problematic things that are in it.
Off the dome, I'm remembering at least one extremely problematic thing about Bring It On. But I'm like, oh yeah, what a great movie. Is it?
Yeah.
So we should explore that, Hannah.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We should make a new podcast called Is It? Where we explore these things from our past.
That is a good idea.
And judge whether they are...
Are they? We test our own assumptions about old media. I really like that idea, actually.
Yeah, I actually do, too. And we could, talk about it beforehand and be guess, and then, yeah, it's good. Because even some things like that, I've become more sensitive over time, too. You know?
Yeah.
In a good way, I think. Of or less tolerant.
Yeah, I was going to say less tolerant of bullshit, I think is a better way to put it.
Yeah, even little pieces of bullshit.
Yeah. One little piece of bullshit is too much.
Too much.
I like that. Let's see. What are we drinking? I'm first. We're first.
What are y'all drinking?
Ian, what are you drinking?
Oh, I'm first. I've got a mug of a Moroccan mint tea. Ooh. So it's a particular variant of spearmint that's common in Morocco.
Nice.
Lovely. Is that a regular tea bev of yours? A mint? Or is this a...
Yeah, I like to have a mint around sometimes. It can be nice.
Nice. Molly's a big mint tea fan.
We like mint tea. We like all kinds of tea. We don't discriminate when it comes to...
The mint tea is very minty.
Yeah. Yep. I have a mug of water. Just cold water. And
curveball.
Yeah, and that's all. I'm just so thirsty. We actually got we got like takeout brunch for the first time in forever. I woke up just like really craving a Benedict like nobody's business.
After all that, I think there was like a big brunch chat in Family Slack. I feel like that planted the seed.
Yeah, I think that's probably what did it. And so I finally just like snapped and called in an order. And like as the line was ringing, Ian was like, "I don't want to go out. I don't want to get it." And I was like, "We're doing it. There's just no turning back now."
I'm making a phone call.
He gave me his order. I asked him what he wanted, and he gave me his order. And then as I'm calling, he was like, "I don't want to pick up food."
About 5 minutes earlier, I declared that, I wish somewhere would deliver because I really don't want to like drive out and go somewhere. So.
Yeah, but then I took your order.
Grandfathered in by that point. That reminds me of something I've always kind of wondered, especially now, which is like, why isn't like delivery breakfast a thing?
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Oh, yeah,
Every other everything has delivery, but breakfast is just not an option.
Yeah.
Because that would be almost the most ideal one, because then you could like sleep in later.
If you could schedule it the day before or something.
Yeah. It'd be nice.
That would be cool. I guess if we all lived at fancy hotels, we could do that.
So what's the outcome of this story? You had to go out and get food. How was it? Was it worth it? Was it cold?
It was so worth it. It was totally worth it. The reason I bring it up is because it was probably the saltiest meal I've had in quite a while. So I'm very thirsty. So I've been like downing water all morning. But anyway,
when I need a large quantity of water, I also go for kind of a standard size coffee mug to vessel choice. I have judging. I feel like I have more questions. How did the Benedict hold up? Because normally when I'm like, I want a Benedict, but I don't want to go out, I just like attempt to make my own hollandaise sauce and then end up within like a pool of buttery disappointment. So how does it hold up?
I mean, the place is very close to us. I will say, I don't know if this is a function of time or just like they fucked up a little bit, but the yolks in mine were not runny. They were kind of more jammy.
Don't like that.
Which was a little disappointing.
Can't stand that for a poach.
Yeah. But our cats are going wild out there. They're just making so much noise. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Are they used to you two being closed in to this room?
Well, we have the door open.
Maybe, yeah. It's weird that they're not like wandering in.
Yeah.
Jack's busy like gargle yodeling.
Yeah.
And Squeaks was making the noise that she tends to before she's going to like leap up somewhere high, like on top of the dryer.
Yeah, it's a squeak.
Yeah.
I have more follow-up questions about the mug of water, because to me, when I'm drinking a not hot beverage in a mug, that just screams I haven't done the dishes in a while.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if that's what this is, or if it was a conscious decision to pull out the mug.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, because I asked for a glass of water and I received a mug.
We're kind of low on glasses.
Yes, there you go.
We do have a couple. We've got a couple of those, like, mason jar handle mug things, which are fine, but they've got, like, that indefinable...
They're the
won't
ones
come off in the dishwasher dirtiness happening.
They're the ones I always think that the water is yellow when I drink out of them.
Yeah, all the cups have those, but you can just tell on the mason jar cups, I think.
Yeah.
Ben's hard-hitting journalistic questions are getting to the bottom of this story. I love it. I tried with a few, roundabout questions.
No, we're getting right to it.
None of them really got to the heart.
We're making people answer for their mugs today.
Well, now that you guys have dug deep into the soul of our relationship and our cleaning habits, Erin, what are you drinking?
I've got an ice water. The ice dispenser mysteriously shut off in the night, and so I got the last of the ice on accident. Sorry, Molly. And I also... Sorry, Molly, who also, went out and got me an iced latte, which is just,
wow.
It's so nice and lovely, and just a dream of a Saturday. So, that's me. Got one of those.
That's wonderful.
What you got, Ben?
I got 2 glasses.
Yeah, and sorry, any follow-up questions about my vessels of
What's with this ice dispenser? What happened there?
We don't know. My theory is that the scoop we keep in there kind of popped it, turned off
hit the little lever?
The sensor. hit the lever. That's my guess right now. That's the only lead I have.
The lever was up? Or was like in the off position?
The ice maker was in the off position.
Oh, and shit.
You have to understand, none of us would ever turn the ice maker off for any reason. If the ice maker were to produce enough ice to overflow into the rest of the freezer, that would be wonderful. Like, give us more. Give us more. So, that's my only lead.
This is suspicious.
Yeah. I know. Something's afoot. So
I smell foul play.
Yeah. I'm not accusing anybody except my sweet.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're the main suspect, so why would you be?
That's fine.
Bless you.
Thank you. I tried to get as far away as I could.
Ben, what are you drinking?
I got 2 ice waters. Well, one water with no ice that's mostly empty, and one that's chock full of ice. And boy, nice. Howdy, I'm going to sneeze again.
Bless. Oh, wow, there he goes. Wow, that one sent him across the room.
I'm back. Hi, Como. Como was very alarmed by my sneeze.
Have we looked into sneezes as a renewable energy source?
That's a good question. Ben has a glass of ice water and a plastic glass of ice water. Cup of ice water.
And I put
just for the record.
I put the plastic, or sorry, I put the one that I fill all the way up with ice in the plastic cup because I think it melts slower in plastic. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm pretty sure plastic is less thermally conductive than glass.
You're less thermally conductive than.
But I don't know if that's actually true.
What, that you're less thoroughly conductive than glass?
I'm thoroughly conductive.
Oh, we got a text, I believe.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
Someone actually followed our
I know who it is, too.
Do you? I know it's one of someone from my family because
Aunt Brown texted us Blaze It. Which is so beautiful. Thank you, Aunt Brown. Aunt Brown, if the listener recalls, was the first person to accidentally dial Blaze It when dialing our number, which is why we now say, but don't dial Blaze It. We say Blaze It, but don't dial Blaze It. That's specifically for Aunt Brown. And so her texting us Blaze It is, I couldn't imagine anything more beautiful. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mom / Aunt Brown, for that beautiful poetic circle of communication.
I got 2 up fronts today. Is it up front time?
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
Oops.
October 24th, 2009.
Thanks, Watt.
He sounds like he's correcting me, the asshole.
Yeah. I know. It's like rude to listen and rude to, but I'm recording a podcast here. I don't remember the second one. I know I have 2. So, but the first one is that I've been playing Celeste, and boy, is it really fucking fun. Mm-hmm. So we talked about that in episode
3.
137. How's
close.
Your body? Yeah, close. How's your body? And it's so fun. I just have a couple more things you can go. I guess it was Ben's obsession. A couple more things to add to that. I'm on chapter 7. Is there only 8?
I think so.
Okay, so I'm on the summit.
Yeah, that's
but there's other stuff too.
Right? There's like an extra level at the end stuff. If you beat all of the hidden stuff in the other levels.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna do that.
I started to, but then I didn't. But I may go back to it at some point.
Yeah,
have you finished everything?
No, I hit a wall and then I got past it, and then I hit another wall and then I got past it, and
that's the game.
Then I hit an even more ridiculous wall, and I'm like, I'm going to stop for a while.
Oh, you know what I just remembered? You know those little clouds that you have to like time your jump on to get extra height? I'm stuck at a level where, and I really, really suck at those, and I'm stuck at a level where you have to be really good at them because you need to save your dash and like get enough height, and I keep fucking it up, and I gave up on it like a while ago and haven't come back.
Nice. Mm-hmm. You know what I've been thinking? A couple of things I wanted to add is like, just like the game mechanic, it's like it's like choreography. It's like you're not, it's, and I think it's really cool in that way. You're not like, it's puzzle solving, number one. You have to like problem solve and puzzle solve, but then it's like all choreography from there. You have to like figure out what works to get you incrementally and then just like keep doing it until you finally like have the whole thing choreographed. I think that's really cool. And the second thing is, I just thought it was cool the way they taught you about some of the game mechanics of like, you learn about one of the things that is trying to kill you because at one point you become it for a little bit. Like the first thing you do is you play as like that little fish thing. Have you guys gotten to that? You play as that little fish thing first, and then you're in a scenario where it is trying to get you. So you know its rules, you know what it can't go through, and you know like kind of its behavior. I thought that was really neat, and just other little things like that. Just a really cool game. Very much enjoying it. And my second,
enjoying having a Switch.
Yeah,
overall.
Very much. Yeah, I've been playing it during movie nights. Perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. Because otherwise I'm just fucking around on my phone, like looking at the news or like, you know, random sites. And so I'm just like playing Celeste during movie time, and it's awesome. It's perfect. Because I can die as many times as I want. It doesn't matter. So I have...
Have you watched any speedruns of Celeste yet?
Yeah.
Aren't they
those
amazing?
are crazy.
They're cool.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember. Oh, my second up front was just a quick story that happened today that I thought was funny and related to Wasamanu. So this morning when we were still in bed, I asked Molly if she knew what the Wasamanu movie was tonight. And she didn't, but she was like talking at me about something else, like while I'm looking it up. And I, told her, I was like, A Quiet Place. And then I was like, ooh, tomorrow is, I don't remember what it is, but I was excited about it. Parasite. I was like, oh, tomorrow's Parasite. And she goes, well, what's tonight? And I was like, A Quiet Place, I just told you. And she thought I had said to her, because she was talking to me, she thought I had said, quiet, please. Quiet, please. Oh, tomorrow is Parasite. And we had something like that super recently that neither of us can remember, where I said something normal, and she thought I said something like I was an asshole. And then we figured it out, but she didn't like react. She wasn't like, wow, you're being an asshole. She was just like, okay, I'll be quiet.
That's love.
My friends. That's love. That's Molly's brand of love, which is very nice.
Yeah. Quiet, please.
Quiet, please.
Wow. Do I have any upfront things? What did we talk about last week?
What did we talk about last week? Wow, no one remember.
I'm looking at the...
Oh, Dimash.
Oh, I have an upfront thing.
Oh,
yeah. I have an upfront thing. I'm actually a little bit sad that I didn't leave more of our conversation about Dimash and the Fifth Element singer in, because it got kind of contentious between the three of us, and I was like being a little overly sensitive, and I just didn't want to like send out that vibe into the world for everybody else, because we all got past it pretty quickly afterwards. But like I've been so vindicated in my perspective of seeing of comparing Dimash to the singer from the Fifth Element. Like, it was Kylie, unprompted, who compared him to the singer from the Fifth Element. Then yesterday I found a video of
like the very first thing she said.
Yeah. Yep. And then yesterday I found a video of him singing the song from the Fifth Element and someone reacting to it. And in the intro, I don't know if you guys watched that video, but in the intro to that video, the voice coach who was doing the reaction said she had recently done a different video about singers that she was comparing to the singer from the Fifth Element, Diva Plava Laguna. And people commented on it asking her why she had not included Dimash. Wow. So
there you go.
You all can eat shit.
Wow. I forgot to watch this video, but I'm excited to. I, in my defense, I didn't get the whole, I only got the one little bit of clip, and I didn't remember the rest of it. So in my defense, I didn't get the whole context of the clip, but yeah, you're obviously very justified in your comparison.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been thoroughly
Thank you very
vindicated.
much.
I feel like just Ben should eat shit. That's my opinion. That's my hot take.
Ben should eat
Yeah.
shit. You don't have to eat shit.
Thank
Erin.
you.
You were very
I
polite
should
about
eat
it.
like a teaspoon, but then Ben gets some more. The main portion of it.
No, but the reason I got served that up is because I have been watching a bunch of the Dimash videos.
Yeah, I also have
especially
been.
Tara Simon reacting to them. And they're great. They're just so much fun. So thank you for bringing
I
to
also
our
was
lives.
watching some of
Thank you.
the Tara Simon Bhakti videos, and then just started watching some Bhakti videos, and have been especially obsessed with the Mary Did You Know
Oh yeah.
video. So good.
Did you know that guy who sings with them in Mary Did You Know is a co-writer of that song? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
Yeah.
how widely. I thought Mary Did You Know is one of those ones that like somebody in like biblical times. would
Yeah,
listen.
I thought it was an
I'm
old
so
song too.
stupid. I'm so fucking stupid. And then I was like, this guy co-wrote it? What?
I thought
It's like a hymn.
I did too. I totally did too. And then the only reason I knew is because I didn't know when I started watching it. Because I'd never heard of Mark Lowry, and so I looked him up.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's most famous for being a co-writer of Mary Did You Know? And I was like, someone wrote that? I thought it's just a song that existed.
Oh my god, brainwashes
Yeah.
us. Speaking of,
Yeah, I'm with you. You're not stupid.
well, that's cool. I'm glad you got into Dimash and Bhaktiv. Speaking of brainwashing, I was surprised that nobody's brought Midsommar as an obsession. Is that?
Have I not?
I don't think so. It's not a topic index.
Wow. Huh.
I don't remember when
not even
when we
mentioned.
saw it. I've watched it 2 or
Didn't
3
we?
times.
Did we
and
see
I
it
love
together in California? I know I saw it with some family members in California at some point. No, it was Mom and Dad, because you guys were there in winter and it came out in midsummer.
We went to a movie, but it wasn't that.
I saw it with Mom and Dad in California, I think, in when it came out in theaters in the summer.
It's not in the topic index.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in theaters.
And it's not even, if I search our episode list, it doesn't even come up like we talked about. Maybe we talked about it up front, didn't get captured.
Weird.
But anyway, I finally saw it,
Weird.
and being somebody who is absolutely traumatized by Hereditary, I loved it. And been really, it's not my obsession this week. It could have been if I didn't have a stronger one. But I've been really into watching like all the videos about it. I watched all the ones that you shared, Hannah, and a bunch more. So really cool.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it again. And I'd like to see the director's cut, I think. Would be fun.
I was very excited because we've been. I think that was maybe the most watched Wasmanu movie so far, and there were like 3 of you guys that hadn't seen it, and I think I didn't hear from Molly, but I think she liked it too,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
And Kylie really liked it, and I was really excited that at how well received it was, especially by you, because I know I knew you'd been traumatized, and also we've been like trying to talk you into seeing it
it's
for
true.
like years.
It's true, we have.
So good. I'm glad. And it really is. I think it's a movie that's enriched definitely by watching it multiple times and by watching analysis videos about it or reading analysis and stuff. Cause there's a lot of like intricacies to it. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy you liked
Yeah,
it.
it was really good. Thank you for orchestrating Wasmanu in such a way where I was totally mentally prepared for it. And I feel like in general, I'm getting a little desensitized to scary movies a little bit. So I'm feeling a little excited about that. I noticed that this year
Good.
in general, like I feel like Pet Sematary gave me nightmares all night. However, I'm totally over it now. And I feel like before that effect would have lasted like much longer. So I feel like Wasmanu is actually healthy for me.
Pet Sematary was a big surprise for a lot of us, including me. Like if I had known that it is Stephen King calls it his scariest like movie or book or whatever, I would have put it later. Because I thought
it was supposed to be like dead animals. I'm like, I can deal with that.
Me too.
Mhm. Yeah, I was internally kind of smiling a little at that when Hannah was like, it's just like creepy dead animals. And I'm there thinking like, oh, yeah. Mhm.
Totally.
That's great.
Nothing darker than that happening.
Yep. I love how you like really kept that close to the vest, Ian. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Then I'm ready to pop in if you all are.
What's up?
Ian, what's our obsession this week?
Yeah, what's your obsession?
Well, I thought that since it is October and one of the one of the awarenesses for this month is ADHD awareness, that I talk about that, because I was recently diagnosed with that in my early to mid 30s. So,
we'll call it early.
Yeah, we'll call it early.
What are you, 32?
But, I thought it would be important to bring up, partially because I missed it for so long, despite the fact that I was seemingly to myself like hunting to figure out what was up with me my whole life, and somehow just managed to miss it. So I think it's kind of useful to have more and better information out there.
Yeah. For us, when Ian got this diagnosis and started like looking into it, it was like we had unlocked an answer that we'd been looking for years, like sometimes without even knowing it. Like everything that we've done a lot of like reading and watching videos and looking up information about like other people's stories of having ADHD since Ian was diagnosed, and it's like the degree that he relates to them is like nothing before, and the degree that I recognize like him in the things that that we're watching, like it's just so clear that's what it is. And so yeah, it is interesting how that despite all that, it was so easy to miss. You want me to send this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it'd be useful.
Okay.
What do you think some of the factors were at play to like have you miss it for so long? Do you think?
I think a lot of it is we have like a whole bunch of cultural perceptions about what it is. That it's, it's especially something you think of for like younger boys who are really hyperactive and loud and running around and, like noticeable and causing trouble. And, that's the issue. And for a long time, that's sort of what it was considered to be primarily. And that understanding has sort of evolved along with the name too. It used to be called like hyperactive or hyperkinetic child disorder or, things like that. For a long time it was, and it's changed over time as they've learned more about it. It's only boys and it wears off. It's always hyperactive. Oh, wait, well, maybe it's not always. Oh, wait, it affects adults. Oh, it can be like, there can be a quiet form of it where it's mostly like internal restlessness and internal like distractibility and things like that. So there's a lot of like information and awareness of it that's kind of wandered up over time. I'm probably going to pop up a few like interesting ADHD related comics and things like that for context, because I found them, and I think Hannah's probably found them kind of useful for understanding too. The first one I think she sent you, it's by a creator with ADHD named Danny Donovan, and it's about how ADHD storytelling tends to go. And part of that is down to kind of the way, like, your brain's a little distractible and it doesn't always plan things out well and you forget and remember things at different rates. But it's sort of going like, the basic one, it's beginning to end, start of story, end of story. Whereas mine starts with pre-story, prologue for context. Then it starts. Then there's too many details. Then there's a side story that's not really related. Then, wait, you remember and go back. And then you remember something. Then you forget. Then you forget what you're talking about. Then you think, I've been doing it too long. Then you get to the point, then you end it, and then you say you're sorry. Which all makes perfect sense to me.
I love the apologize at the end of it. It's very good.
I always create like so much lead up and prologue to any story, seemingly. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, it might jump around a bit.
There was this one video we were just watching. It's overall like one of the more dry ones. I'm not going to share it. I don't think it's in the links, but it's this expert on ADHD talking about what inattentive ADHD looks like. And he's describing like sitting in a classroom trying to focus and get your work done. And one of the things he mentions is like, if you're sitting there and someone drops a pencil, like a normal person would probably just be like, sounds like someone dropped a pencil and like keep on working. But like an inattentive ADHD brain will have to look and see where the pencil went before they can go back to doing their work. And like that to me is like so quintessentially Ian. Like every little noise has to be investigated. and like I've just always thought of that as like part of his personality and maybe a little bit of like paranoia, and maybe it is those things, but then also ADHD is a part of his personality, and it's also an aspect of having ADHD is just like it's like your brain can't weight the importance of every input in real time and prioritize all the time, right? I mean, that's sort of
a lot of it comes down to kind of an executive function disorder. So the bits and parts of your brain that say, okay, I should do things in this order, or this is more important than that, or, you know, I've done this a lot, this is how long it'll take, or this is boring, but I need to do it. I'm going to, you know, find that motivation to do it. A lot of that is underdeveloped, or it's just sort of not highly functional. Some of that is, you know, those parts of your brain develop a little slower sometimes, but also the neurotransmitters that get used, like dopamine and norepinephrine, they just aren't there in the amounts that they should be. Either they're not being produced as much, or your body's kind of like pulling them back quicker than they should. But it creates a situation where, especially if something is, you know, boring and uninteresting, or like kind of long and complicated in like a boring way, like a paperworky way, or things like that. Things that from the outside look, and you know yourself, are incredibly simple and basic, are the things that are most paralyzing. Like, I could spend a day trying to make a simple phone call to make an appointment. But, you know, I could do like a wildly complicated thing that I'm really interested in.
like a craft of some kind.
With almost no trouble.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, especially I think if you are figuring this out as an adult, that's particularly rough on you and your self-confidence, because it feels like it's some laziness or willpower issue with you. And you don't realize that it's not. So you just kind of are constantly beating yourself up about it.
I feel like that's so exacerbated by like our capitalist brainwash, where we feel like we have to be productive at all times, or we're like, we don't give ourselves self-worth.
You're like less than if you're not.
Yeah. It's interesting because one thing that I would suggest, if any of this sounds like it could be it could be you as you're listening to this, like some of the links we're going to send are like from creators who, is this the one?
Third one.
That's what I clicked. From creators who do a ton of stuff. This one?
Yeah.
About ADHD, like comics or videos. And like, I would really suggest just like watching them and having people that know you very well watch them and seeing if they like feel like it speaks to them. Because another thing that happens, especially in adults, is that frequently ADHD gets misdiagnosed or goes undiagnosed alongside a diagnosis of depression or anxiety, because it can very easily cause depression and anxiety. You know, one thing Ian and I have talked about a lot is how I find myself often wondering, now that we know about his ADHD brain, I find myself wondering if he would have struggled less with anxiety throughout his entire life if he didn't have ADHD, because having to constantly be double and triple checking with yourself on whether you have paid attention to the right things and like done these like small things that you know should be simple, it can really make you almost have like low level obsessive compulsive tendencies. So,
and it's got to be enormously stressful too, just to like live in that space.
Yeah, and then between that and like we were just talking about, like feeling like you're not productive enough for society to value you, like that's going to lead to depression for a lot of people. That's a whole lot of stress. So it's been really interesting thinking about the way that those things interplay, and it makes a lot of sense that people will often be diagnosed with those things, and Also, an interesting thing that we've noticed is that, like, a lot of the content that's being created about ADHD in adults is coming from Canada. So I don't know if that is, like, Canada being ahead of the curve on this, or if it's just, like, a coincidence, or if, like, maybe in the US it's not as, like, common a diagnosis for adults. I'm really not sure, but I think maybe it might mean that...
I think maple syrup gives you ADHD.
Or maybe Ian's Canadian secretly. What was the other?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, Maine is pretty close to
I was going to say, you did live in Maine for a bit.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, did you have a lot of maple syrup when you were living in Maine?
Not too much.
Maybe it's not about the amount, it's just about the potency of the maple syrup up there.
Yeah. Closer to the source. Really, you know what I mean? So
it's a dark amber.
We just sent another comic. Yeah.
Yeah, we just sent another comic.
It'll be like number 2.
It's actually the same person about ADHD paralysis, and I think the descriptor that's happening is pretty good. It's effectively, you know, like here's what it looks like from the outside, and it's a person kind of lounging, playing like a video game in a dirty room. But the feels like it's just a little bit more of a worried face, but just a slew, which is kind of how your brain works with this. You're thinking about how you have to do it, and you're beating yourself up about how somehow you're not, and how how, you know, like I said, how simple it is, because like I said, it's amazing how often it's what should be the simplest stuff in the world to do that's really hitting you.
I actually think one of the most kind of overlooked symptoms of this is this type of paralysis. Because for me, that was like the scariest thing about your experience before you were diagnosed. Like, when I was still going into the office, I would come home and ask Ian how his day was, and he would be like, well, I didn't get enough done in the morning, and then I spent the whole afternoon, like, just kind of thinking about how I didn't get enough done. And you know, knowing and being told that what that looked like was he just kind of like was frozen, literally just in place for the majority of the day, like doing nothing except feeling terrible about himself and thinking about how terrible you were at things. Like that's really upsetting to come home and hear that's been your partner's day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A rough quality of it is you can do something one day, but it's no guarantee that it won't be the hardest thing in the world the next day.
Yeah.
Like, you can manage to get through it, and you can look back and know, I did this like 20 times. How is this? You know, so again, that similar sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff, and this comes back to like probably low dopamine levels and people having to like seek out almost inadvertently in a lot of cases, like other sources of interest and attention, kind of to keep them operating. But there's a really high rate of substance abuse. You know, you see a lot of people like effectively like they're self-medicating with marijuana or tobacco or harder drugs or alcohol. People with it tend to be a little, they're like much higher represented in the population of prisons because either it's drug related or they're messing up on just like the basic mechanics of life. All the stuff you need to do as an adult is the stuff that is hard. So
that sucks because it's also, I feel like, indicative of not having a good support system, you know, in place. It's like if you don't have that support system and you have it, then you're kind of fucked because in our society, there's no real like mercy for you there. You know, if you can't.
I think it's getting better, but because like mental health in general has been getting better. There's a lot of like I can't imagine. There's a lot of comorbidity stuff with other mental health issues too. I think to explain it, my own kind of journey of it, I've always kind of had these like cyclical periods where everything's going good and great, and then I effectively like burn myself out and drop out of something or fail at something, and then enter this kind of like anxious, depressed period for a while until I can finally like get out of it. But that's happened multiple times. And it's, you know, it's it's really nice to kind of have this now because it explains a lot of things. It takes a lot of the bite out of that self-esteem related stuff to be like, oh, I'm not just like failing and lazy because of that. That was happening because there's legitimately a difference in the way. I feel like one other thing it might be useful just for the sake of like noting it and identifying it that people don't always see as often is there's that absent-minded quality, like putting down your keys and then never finding them again, or like going from one room to another and forgetting something. And one of the hang-ups with this is deficits in your working memory. Your ability to like hold one thing in your mind while you're doing other stuff, which, that's going to hit you a lot in school and things like that. Like you'll raise your hand and then forget. Or, you're trying to cook from a recipe, which I've never really like been a great fan of. I like cooking, but I like almost always improv it to some degree, because reading the recipe, I might like go and dig everything out and have forgotten, like sometimes in the span of the amount of time, like was that a quarter or a third of a cup, and have to check it again, and then maybe like 2 or 3 times. So it's like you're having trouble with that, and that also hurts a little bit with your ability to recall things at times. So there's moments when I might be trying to think of something desperately, and I know it, and it will come back to me pretty soon. But it's like I've walked into a room where all the drawers are locked all of a sudden, and I just can't find what I need.
Like when someone like the getting to know you type questions, like what do you like to do for fun? Like your brain freezes up on those types of questions that are like so easy for other people, but it's like suddenly you can't.
I hate that question.
It's like, what do I do for fun? Another thing that
hang out with your mom.
Yeah. Another thing that like, so looking backwards at like things about like Ian that other people might see and not recognize as symptoms, like it's always been and continues to be impossible to have you be able to understand what I'm saying while there's other audio inputs happening, like TV, music, anything. Like if there's more than one thing going on, because the brain is not able to do that prioritizing thing, silence becomes very important to focusing, or like at least like, not, and also like even if it's a quiet music, like you'll have to shut it off in order to process what I'm saying a lot of the time.
Not always, but often. You have so much trouble like pushing irrelevant stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
You almost can't help like picking up on it and focusing. I've seen some people describe it as being like there's 4 TV channels all going at the same time and you're trying to focus on one of them, or you're trying to do something but someone else has like a remote and they keep changing the channel on you. You don't want it to, but it's just happening. So
I was just gonna ask about like life after diagnosis, and like besides like the taking a bite out of the guilt and why am I like this, like what else do you feel like has worked for you, and or has anything worked for you besides that?
Reading into it's definitely been helpful. I also have gone on a medication for it, which seems to be useful so far. It's very much like it's helpful when you're on it, and then when it's off, you're just normal. Or back to, your default. It's not like a curate thing. It's more like putting on glasses and taking them off. So the front line that they tend to put people on that tends to work the best is stimulant medication. So things like Ritalin and Adderall and things like that, which interestingly have like a kind of more of a paradoxical response with people with ADHD, where it's almost more calming because it's giving you kind of a little more of the stuff you need to focus. But there are, I think, a couple of non-stimulant ones that people get put on too, but that's usually if the other ones don't work or if they have like some history of substance abuse, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you usually take like a day off per week of the medication, so that the idea is you want to try to only take it when you need it so that you don't develop too much of a tolerance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to mention is that ADHD does tend to run in families. So, like, a lot of times when a child is diagnosed, the parent will be diagnosed basically at the same time, because they'll be like, oh, I've always thought that kid just took after me. And then the therapist will be like, maybe you should go get checked. And there are other people with ADHD in Ian's family, some of whom we didn't even know, who were also diagnosed later in life, and we didn't even know that they had been diagnosed until we told Ian's parents about his diagnosis, which was interesting.
It is, yeah, it's highly heritable. I don't know how accurate this statement is because I need to track down the source, but I remember one person in something I watched describing it as heritable as your height is.
Wow.
So, if you've got a sibling or a parent or a grandparent, it's not, it's not necessarily like a given, but it's not an unlikely chance that you'd have a kid with that.
Do you know, in your research, are there like, I guess it must be like all things like fall on a spectrum of things, because I relate to some of what you're saying, but not to nearly to the degree of it. So I've always wondered if I've always had like just like a touch of something, like I do find it really, really hard to get motivated or stay focused sometimes, but it's not debilitating. It's like manageable,
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Yeah,
do you know if there's like a
there's
spectrum aspect?
I think the diagnostic statistical manuals, like the psychological handbook stuff is pretty cut and dry about information, but if you, because it has to be, because it's a medical text for diagnosing, but I found a lot of people saying, yeah, it is kind of spectrum-y, and there's different forms of it. There's the very hyperactive form, there's a very like internal daydreamy form, and then there's like a combined one.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually also relate to a ton of the symptoms that we've talked about, but I happen to know, due to some bad decisions once or twice in college, that Adderall doesn't have the type of effect on me that it should on an ADHD brain. So like, you can have a lot of the same. I don't know. I do think there's still some debate about the spectrum nature of it, whether it is or not. I don't think that's settled. I think it could be on a spectrum. But, I do think there's probably a point on the spectrum at which stimulants actually become a useful, treatment form, or part of a useful, treatment.
Yeah. Or the other ones, not everyone responds to them necessarily.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing where, like, this stuff happens to everyone in some form at some point.
Yeah.
It's just, is it something that happens to you, like, a couple times a week, or once a day, or is it something that, like, is 80% of your waking hours?
Yeah.
Totally.
It's a degree of, how well you're managing it and things like that. And it's interesting because it's the sort of thing, like, if you have it, you didn't develop it at some point. You've had it since birth.
Yeah. Interesting.
And you might, you might reach a point as an adult where kind of you've either managed or aspects of it have faded enough that it wouldn't really be considered an issue for you.
Some people, some career paths, you basically only need to do the stuff that you're interested in most of the time, and you may be able to get, like, outside help with the stuff you're not interested in. And so, like, there's no need to be, it can feel like it wore off because you're no longer, like, trying to get a liberal arts degree, like.
Oh, and on the treatment stuff, there is, beyond medication, there's also, some cognitive behavioral stuff that can be useful for it. And also one of the things that I might look into, is sort of specific skills coaching, because there's ways that you can make things more useful for you. Obviously, if your brain is distractible like that, you can take some cues from things that you might be able to focus better on. Like, a lot of people with ADHD are great at focusing on video games because they're designed to, like, constantly be giving you little motivations and rewards. It's designed to push the right buttons for you. So a lot of times, like, gamification or setting tiny little short deadlines or things like that can be useful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do you find, like, just speaking of stimulants, did you notice maybe before your diagnosis that, like, caffeine had any sort of impact on you or anything like that?
I think at times, yeah. But one of the things that's a little rough about stimulants in general is a lot of them kind of push your fight or flight buttons. So sometimes it can be more of like it pushes you into like jittery anxiety instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I've been finding this more useful, and I've been trimming down on the amount of caffeine in the coffee I drink, and finding that good. But everyone's a little bit different. No one's going to respond exactly the same. So it's a lot of trial and error, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's super interesting. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great idea to do this, and we're gonna link in the description or on the website if you're not on a platform that supports that. We'll add a bunch of links to creators that Ian and I really like, and some of the posts, all the posts we talked about, and some additional stuff, and some videos and things like that. So people can go look at those if this is something they want to dig into more deeply.
Yeah.
Dope.
Awesome.
Dope.
Thank you.
No problem. I rambled a little, I'm pretty sure, between the recording issues.
Is this the apologizing part?
Oh, yeah, it is. Didn't realize I was doing that, but it is. I'm not an expert. I might have missed something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
We'll try and put up stuff that's useful, though.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Oh,
You're an expert at your lived experience, and that's really what you spoke on, so thank you.
Exactly. Who is
Me.
next? Erin, what's your obsession?
What's up? My obsession is a book I read this week. I've been gloriously back into reading whenever I fall, because don't you just love that feeling, just like being in the middle of a good book that you can't wait to get back to? I love that. And so, been a little stalled out recently, and my technique for getting back in, and this is, I'm going to do a shout out and then my obsession. My technique for getting back in is to reread a book that I have found myself in that state with in the past, and then cling on that momentum to just jump right into the other one. So I started that momentum back with, I talked about it in episode, I have it pulled up here, 16, Gaslighted by My Library. I talked about the book Confucius Jane, not as an obsession. I think maybe coming correct with regards to my library was my obsession that week. But I talked about reading that book. So it's a lesbian romance book, I guess. But it's like an emotionally intelligent one. It's not very corny. It's like a good one. So shout out to that book, which propelled me into this book, which I'm super excited about. I had bought this book for my lesbian lending library a while back, just as I was doing a big book order. It's called Ash. And it's a retelling of Cinderella, but it's gay. And it's also got kind of more of a fantasy thing. It reminds me a lot of Ella Enchanted, except it's gay. Like, that's the real vibe that I was feeling on it. It's got, like, a lot of good fantasy, got, like, more fairy shit, like, where the fairies are, like, cool, but, like, scary as fuck because they're powerful and, like, you're getting into an agreement with a fairy and, like, that shit's gonna kill you, like that sort of kind of fun stuff.
My dream.
Yeah, it's good.
Because as we all know, Ella Enchanted should have been gay, but it was not.
Ella Enchanted should have been gay, so it really felt like, I don't think it was like as good as Ella Enchanted, just because Ella Enchanted is such a good book, but it really felt like it was in that space of like if Ella Enchanted were gay.
Wow. And
so I loved this book. So it's called Ash. It's by Malinda Lo. I'm bad at names. And it's 10 years old at this point. And she has, at the beginning of this book, I have the 10-year anniversary edition. So she has like a introduction. No, she has like a 10-year anniversary note to it, wherein she says that when she wrote it at first, the first draft or the first thing that she shared out to her friends, she like sent it to her friends, and Melinda is
Lindsay.
Linda, who wrote this book, is gay. Okay, so that's good context. So she wrote this book she loves fairy tales, so she did a retelling of Cinderella. She sent it to her friends, and in the end, she had it ends traditionally, right? Cinderella falls in love with Prince Charming, and so her friends read it and are like, so it's good, but she has no chemistry with Prince Charming, and also there's this total lesbian subtext with this other character. And the author was like, what? No, there isn't. And reread it and was like, oh no, I'm really gay. And she was also which is makes sense because she found the love story between the Cinderella character, whose name is Ash, and the Prince Charming guy, his name is not Prince Charming. She found those pieces the absolute hardest to write. She just had to force herself through it. And so she just rewrote it to be gay, and just everything fell into place, and it was great. And so it's good. In this world, it's not a coming out story, which is something, I love stumbling upon material that's not about that, right? In this world, it's not as common, but it's definitely we see other gayness in the book, right? It is established as normal and fine. Everyone still is ooh, you're gonna find your husband someday. Mm-hmm. But we also see same-sex characters in the background. And so then when it happens, it's totally wonderful. There's great tension that's built between the characters. They have great chemistry. It's good. I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend.
I'm ordering it right now.
Yeah, I think you would be into it. Hannah will be excited to talk about it.
It's not letting me log in. I'll get it later.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds so good. Literally sounds like my dream.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Ugh. And there's kind of it's good. It's good. And it's not as, and it's great because there's no fairy godmother. Instead, it's there is a fairy aspect of it, but it's very layered and kind of scary, kind of creepy, but magical. It's cool.
That reminds me of, did anybody else watch The Magicians besides Ian? I know he did.
I think Molly watched some of it.
The fairies in The Magicians are really interesting. They're very interesting and very different from the way I've ever seen them depicted anywhere else in Western media. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in that show. I feel like it's kind of underrated. I would recommend it.
Cool. You did recommend
really
it.
I did, yeah. It's kind of slept on still. It's over now, I think. What?
Oh, it's also really neat that you've got, a traditional story like that getting reworked. Because it's just so ingrained culturally that it's good, really nice to have a inclusive touchstone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she really did a great job making it her own. It's still got a lot of the outlines, but a lot of the details are it's just very much its own world and its own, its own world mechanics, but still a very familiar script that's kind of turned a little bit, but still really lovely, and they lived happily ever after. Of course, that's not a spoiler.
Of course. That sounds beautiful. I'm going to get that for sure as soon as I can log back into my bookshop account.
Great. Yeah, I think that's where I got it. Bookshop.
Nice.
So I'm trying to figure out how I found it too. I think, I scour for any sort of books like this and then just buy them and keep them in my library until I have a whim to read them. And here we are. Okay, yeah. I'm done.
I'm having a book struggle time too. So that sounds like it might be the thing to break me out of it.
This is great. And I think you're probably going to want to do a reread of Ella Enchanted afterwards. So have it on deck.
I think I have it around now. Yeah, cool. That'll be good.
I almost did a reread, but I was like, but it won't be gay, so.
Well, cool. Great obsession, Erin.
Thanks.
I feel bad because I feel because we had a technical error earlier, we've been recording for ever, and we might be rushing through a little bit, but then it's also what else can you say? Read the book. You gotta read the book.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And also, we talked about Ella Enchanted, episode 39, the last time I went to the roller coasters.
Oh, it's been so long now. Ben, what's your obsession?
My obsession's a musician, and I'm actually really curious to hear if either of you have heard of him, because I don't know if he's really famous or not, but I think he might be.
I am hip. I am Ben, and I am hip.
It's Jacob Collier. Have you heard of him? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't.
I had a feeling Erin would have, actually.
Yep.
So he's a British musician, and I actually, before I ever heard any of his music, I only started listening to his music recently, but I've heard him talk about music a lot, because he is a really, really interesting person to hear talk about music, because I feel like he thinks about music maybe differently than like anyone else I've heard before. It's fascinating.
I think he's a prodigy.
Absolutely. Yeah, like he's absolute. Okay, I'm glad. Okay, yeah, I'm glad you're on with that too. So like the first time I heard of him was you know those videos they do where it's like an expert explains a topic to 5 different people, like a kid, a teenager, like a college student, whatever. He did one of those where he explained harmony, and the highest level was Herbie Hancock, and just hearing him and Herbie Hancock like talk about music was incredible. I've also like listened to him do this really long interview with a guy named June Lee. He's really known for reharmonization, which is he has these amazing covers, often a cappella, where he sings like a million different parts. And it's like well-known songs and well-known melodies but he redoes the harmonic stuff underneath it entirely. And I actually think we should listen to one.
Can I describe him as like my impression of him?
Yeah.
So he looks like he's 14.
Yeah.
He looks like he might be a little shit, but he's not. He's like this like incredibly, like when he starts talking about music, you're like, this guy's totally a little shit. But then he's so like passionate and knowledgeable about it. You're like, okay, he's just a prodigy. And he also sings in this like crazy deep bass voice that's crazy because he looks like he's 14.
Yeah.
Is that match with you?
He doesn't. Oh, he has a really wide range. I don't know that he's like a bass, but yeah, he can definitely hit them low notes. So this is a Stevie Wonder song that Jacob Collier won a Grammy for arrangement for, and this was on his first album that was released in 2016, in which he recorded, produced, mixed, did everything for it himself in his house. All the instruments, everything.
Should we press play at the same time?
Yeah. So I'll do a 3, 2, 1 play. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1 play.
Oh, hold on. I was trying to do it in Slack and it's unavailable. I'm sorry. Okay.
Wow.
It's
All right.
going now.
Back to the beginning.
Okay, sorry. Back to the beginning. I'm so sorry. Okay. Ready.
And this song's You and I. I don't know if I said that. You and I by Stevie Wonder. All right. 3, 2, 1 play. Oh, and I should mention, I sent the video of a transcription of it because I think it's really fun to watch those because you can see all the wild chords that he makes with his voice.
Oh, this is all a cappella. Why does it keep pausing?
Yeah, this is all his vocals.
We've got German subtitles for some reason. Who does he remind me of? How old is he?
26.
Wow.
He was 22 when he made this. Or younger, even. He's won 4 Grammys for arrangement already, and he's 26.
Wow, this is really cool.
I love how this song grows.
Yeah. Who does it remind me of? You know what it reminds me of a little bit? This is probably just shows my ignorance, but for some reason it reminds me a lot of the
reminds me of that solo from The Fifth Element.
What is it? Herbie Hancock Jr. Not Herbie Hancock. There's a guy, he has a Christmas album that we used to listen to a lot.
Leslie Odom Jr. Leslie Odom Jr. Leslie Odom Jr.
No, not him.
No.
It's much older than that, and it's a white guy.
Okay, sorry.
Like that we used to listen to in our family?
Yeah. It's a junior, though.
Oh, Harry Connick?
Yeah, it reminds me of Harry Connick Jr.'s Christmas album. I don't know exactly why. The feeling it gives me.
Well, we're not going to be ones to disagree with what it reminds you of anymore.
I can see that.
It's a good album.
I love Harry Connick Jr.
Look at these fucking chords at the end.
That's crazy.
Whew.
Wow.
Love that song.
Spicy.
Wow.
So he kind of got famous at first by posting these videos of songs like that on YouTube where he was singing all the parts or playing all the instruments. And I think he kind of got famous, like popular among other musicians first. And then very quickly was noticed by Quincy Jones and flown out to America to hang out with Quincy Jones and Herbie Hancock and just talk about music. And then was signed to Quincy Jones' like management company when he was, I think, like 20. And like I mentioned, that was from his first album that he recorded and did all himself, called In My Room. And but he recently, like his latest project has been a 4-part album called Jesse, that I think he's released 3 parts of it now. And a lot of it's recorded with, he's like collaborated with a ton of other musicians on it. And a lot of the instrumentation is with the Metropole Orchestra, which is like a pop jazz orchestra kind of thing in from Amsterdam, I think. So a lot of cool stuff. He also like when he was in like 2015 or something, I think he worked with a PhD student at MIT who like made him his own instrument called a harmonizer, and they made like this whole big ass live show. He's done a lot of cool stuff, and like I said, I think the most interesting things about him are just like watching him talk about music, and I've learned a lot of it goes over my head really quickly, but also there are some things that are really fascinating that I never even knew about until I heard about him, which is like things like did you know that the way that we tune all of our instruments, like tune an octave, or not even tune our instruments, just like the way we, like every note that we play is a specific frequency, and it's somewhat arbitrary what letter we assign to a given frequency. Like, for example, everything we do is based off the note A being 440 hertz, and he like has a song where he starts the song with shifting that to 432 hertz, and then as the song goes on, changes it to 440, which is so, like, I've never heard of anyone doing anything like that before. And then also...
What song? Do you know?
I don't know. I can find it for you. But then also, do you know about temperament? I doubt it, because I didn't know shit about it before. Basically, like, our note system, an octave is 12 half steps, and we have the frequencies that all those notes are at set such that they're evenly spaced along that octave. But that makes it so that all chords are actually like slightly out of tune for the chord you're playing, which I know doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's like either like fractions of a hertz or several hertz off of the correct frequencies for the notes, because every note, like, to be a perfect chord, the third and the fifth would have to be at like the specific harmonics or ratios of the fundamental note in the chord. And that can only happen if you have what's called just temperament or pure temperament, which is where you tune all of your notes to the harmonic series of a specific fundamental. And the reason we don't do that is because if you then try to play chords for any other fundamental, they sound way off. But like a pure triad in a justly tuned note system sounds like much purer and much better than one in an even temperament system like we have. Like, if you listen really carefully, if you play like a C major chord in a piano, there's like a beating frequency in the background, and that's because of even temperament. But if you play it in just temperament, that goes away and it's much like purer sounding, which is weird. But like he fucks with that kind of things in his songs too, where like he'll change tunings of different things slightly, especially when he does songs like that where he's doing it all just his vocals. He'll like try to tune chords sometimes to be more towards just temperament than even temperament, and so the tuning of just like literally the frequency that the notes correspond to will sometimes change in his songs as it goes on. It's wild.
Wow.
There's a lot of, and like something called negative harmony that I still don't understand he apparently fucks with. and microtonals. Like, he fucks around with like harmonizing using the notes that are in between notes, like not just sharp and flat. Like I mentioned, every note is just a frequency, and there are frequencies in between them, and he like fucks around with using those as well in his harmonies. It's wild.
He fucks with all kind of stuff.
He fucks around with all weird, a bunch of weird shit.
He really fucks around and finds out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I have a cue for you, Ben. I find his whole thing like really intellectually interesting. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube videos with him in it, and I love also the videos where he's talking about music. But I can't necessarily, and I like a lot of his songs, but I can't like sit down and like jam out on a Jacob Collier album. Like, I find his music more intellectually interesting than I find it like emotionally captivating, and I'm wondering where you fall in that.
I kind of agree with you there. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like in the same way where I feel like I can't like work often while having a podcast on the background, because I feel like I have to pay attention. I feel like I need to pay attention when I'm listening to his songs. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to have it on his background, but also it does serve well as, I will say, like, I was listening to it while I worked a lot this week, and it definitely serves its role as good background music as well. But it is nice to like put on good headphones and like kind of just lie down and listen to it. I feel like is how it's intended. Mm-hmm. I totally agree though that I can't just like, I don't feel like I can just put it on and sort of let it go. I don't know.
I love that about music. It's like sometimes the most emotionally captivating songs for me will be like a shitty recording of somebody with a slightly out of tune guitar just singing about something. Mm-hmm. But still there's this other spectrum of like, you know, fucking around with frequencies and getting things perfect that can also be really interesting, and both are, you can listen to both, you know, and find value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dope.
Herbie Hancock as a name is really close to Harry Connick.
I love it. Hannah's special little takeaways from these. I'm gonna put some songs I like of his. Yeah. I like this one a lot. This is Feel off his Volume 2. And I also like Moon River. I love Moon River as a song, and he just does a great...
He won a Grammy for that one also.
I have Hallelujah queued up here to watch later, because I love that song, and I'd love to hear what he did with it.
Which one?
Hallelujah?
Oh,
I haven't listened to that. He also won a Grammy for rearranging the Flintstones theme song.
Wow.
Maybe we should listen to that.
He rearranged it into a whole different song.
No, it's the same song.
No.
He won a Grammy for that?
Yeah.
Wow. You can win a Grammy for just about anything. Where are you seeing Hallelujah?
They're just giving these fucking things out now.
Clearly they are. Should I apply for a Grammy?
Oh, and yeah, Erin mentioned he has 2 Tiny Desk concerts. One that was like actually the Tiny Desk, and one during COVID that was at home. And in the one at home, he did all of it himself, and also like recorded it such that there were 3 of him on the video, really cool. Or 3 or 4 of them. Oh,
I didn't even notice they were all him. I haven't watched it yet, but I had it like up to watch, and I didn't notice yet. Wow. Oh, it's playing. I have a bunch of videos playing muted. Oops. The internet, right? It's like, what?
Can we even believe it?
Can we even believe what we see on the internet?
Can we even?
And, like, you touched on this, but he's also, like, I mean, he's obviously a multi-instrumentalist, but, like, I think very proficiently and prolifically so. Like, I think it's like,
yeah.
You know,
I like plays a lot of instruments.
Yeah, he, like, really plays them.
He doesn't just, like, dabble.
Right. Like, I could play the piano, like technically.
Well, I never heard of this guy. I'm excited to check him out.
Yeah, you'll be, once you start watching his stuff on YouTube, you'll be getting a lot of suggestions for, he's all over the internet as far as that goes.
It's a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
This is that first video I watched that had him in it, where he talks to Herbie Hancock. And all of it is way over my head, but it's still interesting.
That's probably why that name was in my head.
Yeah, Ben had said it like 5 seconds before.
I said it like
you were
3 or 4 times.
And we're like, please listen to the Herbie Hancock Jr. Christmas album.
But it's got a lot of the same sounds, is all I'm saying.
It was funny. I spied that immediately. It was fun to see that in real time. Where's Ben? Do you have the video handy where he sits down with Harry Connick Jr. and sings
they talk about
songs?
Christmas music? Yeah. Let me see. What are the good songs on that album?
Which one is the perfect equivalent that no one will believe you about?
No, look, it's not. This is not a Diva Plava Laguna situation. I was just saying. I was just
love
telling
that.
you.
Absent of any context.
Can I ask a dumb question? Is Diva Plava Laguna the character's name?
Yes. Yes.
What's the singer's name? Do we know?
The actual singer?
Yeah.
I don't know. Erin looked it up last week. It's an opera singer.
Isn't it a lot of it like Inva Mula?
The part that I sent you, the part that I had you skip to last week, that was largely like edited, fucked with. To have her because she was supposed to be an alien, so like there was no like desire to like make sure it sounded like a human could sing it.
Mm-hmm.
Except a human can.
Right.
Only one,
right. That's a live. Anyway, I'm gonna find the best Harry Connick Jr. song, but I'm gonna do it on my own time. And I'll let you guys know what I find out.
That's great.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, should we do homework?
Yeah, let's do it.
This has been a cursed recording session, and let me just say, I've still had a lot of fun, and
I've read it up on a great app.
It's gonna be a great app. I just want everyone to know, if we sound tired, we've been recording for so long.
2 hours at this point. We're just coming up on our second hour here.
There was a fire alarm that went off in the middle of recording. Yeah. It's just been, but I'm so happy to be here. I won't speak for you guys.
Same. Okay. I'm so happy to be talking about Harry Connick Jr. Christmas albums with you.
2 hours. All right, what's our homework? Check out the links that we sent, or we put in the description if you want to learn more about what it's like to have ADHD, if you might have ADHD, just anything about ADHD.
Yeah. And I think I was focusing more on like, symptoms and hardships and things like that, but there's some like nice stuff about it too. Mm-hmm. See a lot of creativity coming out of that, a lot of like, inventive thinking, because you're constantly kind of looking for new things and mixing things and everything. So,
mm-hmm. And another thing you told me before we came in here was that you thought that our show would be something that would be really fun for an ADHD brain, because of how often we change topics and jump around and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a whole database of interesting things.
Yeah.
So,
it's a compliment.
So that's nice. And Ian does listen every week, so there you go. So maybe we have a high proportion of ADHD brains listening than like an organized podcast would have. So
if you're listening to this podcast, you have ADHD.
Full stop.
This is the test.
I'm on Twitter at Anthropology and Instagram, and Ian's not really on social media. And you can still listen to my podcast about dreams, So Dreamy, every place so you can listen to this. And I think that's all the homework that I have. And Ian's also nodding. Erin, what's your homework?
Hello. My homework is to check out the book called Ash by Malinda Lo. It's so good. You'll like it. Specifically you, Hannah.
Yeah. I will like it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Except that I do, because I'm about to say it. You can check out lesbianlendinglibrary.com. Check out my catalog, my ever-growing catalog. Okay, thank you. Oh, also check out Confucious Jane by, I want to say Katie Lynch?
Jane Lynch.
Katie Lynch.
Janie Lynch.
By Janie Lynch.
By Lindsay Lynch.
By Lindsay Lynch.
Crunchy lunch.
Ben, what's your homework?
My homework is either listen to Jacob Collier's music or just go watch him on YouTube talk about music. Either way is cool. My Twitter's nicely proved Ben. My Twitch is Disco Greg. We streamed Among Us on Friday.
Yeah, we streamed it was about half troubleshooting.
Yeah, we streamed about an hour of troubleshooting stuff, and I kept the stream on the whole time because why the fuck not? And then we played Among Us, and it was fun.
I want to go back and watch that.
I'm
Not
sad
today,
I was watching
but-
Bird Box. Did you record it?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Cool. The stream? Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Perfect. I'm
It's
going to watch
pretty fun.
the whole hour of troubleshooting, then I'm going to turn it off. I'll watch the game.
It's a troubleshooting stream. I should thank Ian for joining us as a guest because you were great, very informative,
Thank you,
very
yes.
fun, very patient with my bizarre recording issue, and just all around great guy, great husband, great producer,
A great pal. A great pal.
educator.
To us all, especially to Hannah.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks.
greatest pal of my life. All right, so if you want to call us or text us and tell us your obsession this week or just tell us to blaze it, you can do that at our phone number. It's 774-326-0420.
Blaze it. Don't dial Blaze it. Text Blaze it.
Shout out to Mom again for doing that. You can find us on Twitter at 2broadpod. You can find us on Instagram at way2broad. You can email us at way2broad@gmail.com. And if you missed any of that, if you're looking for any of the links we talked about, if you just want to have a nice time, you can go to way2broad.com for anything you want. earnben.com for anything you need, maxfun.org for some of the purest content on the internet, and that's it. Oh, Ian, you're gonna have to do the honors with the podcast candle.
Mm-hmm.
So
My podcast candle is extinguished because it already set off my fire alarm.
so the other podcast candle is now extinguished. Good job.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was weird because 2 fire extinguishers went off at the same time. It was like the one in here and then the one in the hall.